Greetings and welcome, everybody. Here we are, part two in our three-part mini course on the plant spirit path. Last course, we talked about what the plant spirit path is, how we enter it, what are the benefits of doing this work. And in this part two, we will be talking about blessings of the path. I want to really get into, in this particular class, how we as individuals end up transforming through how we work with the plants, right? It's impossible to engage with the plants in the way that we do on whatever iteration of plant spirit path we may walk without having profound personal transformations happen. So we are going to focus on that in this class. We will be beginning with probably the most important aspect of plant spirit path work, which is the cultivation of kinship, going beyond the hedge and entering into kinship with the plants. We will then move into the ritual of animism, which is sacred reciprocity, the flow of transformative energy. Then moving into green gnosis, how we can experience inner knowing from within our own selves on this particular path. We will be looking at magic and medicine and the blessings of the plant spirits, and then wrapping up with the concept of wild wisdom. So I'm really excited about this one. And again, remember, there are three parts to this mini course. So after you watch this one, you'll want to move on to part three. So, begin our conversation with kinship. As I mentioned, this is probably the most foundational and important aspect of walking a plant spirit path. After all, the entire point of doing plant spirit path work, of practicing green wisdom, spiritual herbalism, modern mort cunning, is to enter into deep personal relationships with the plants, right? Without that, we're not really doing a spiritual practice. We might know a lot about plants. We might have memorized a lot about the medicinal benefits of plants. We might know how to make herbal medicine. We might really understand botany and plant identification and know a lot about foraging and cooking with plants. But none of that implies that there is deep kinship, right? So we want to take the next step and take the whatever ways that we're working with plants, whether we're gardeners or foragers or herbalists or whatever, into this next level where the real power actually happens, right? So this is a little bit of a reiteration from our first class, but it's so important that it always bears repeating. And actually, I try to create a little bit of space in almost every class I teach to just go back over this. And I'm not doing it just for new people, and I'm not doing it just for students and apprentices. I'm also doing it for myself, right? We live in a world that kind of creates this exclusionary position for humans, right? The world that we tend to inhabit, or our cultural and societal perspectives, tend to center humans. Humans are the smartest people in the room. They're the strongest people in the room. The cities and towns we build are about humans. Everything we do is about the human narrative. And so I really think that all of us need kind of constant reminders. We need to be in this constant meditation on the fact that we live in a world filled with people. Only some of those people are human people, right? That personhood exists all around us. And especially for folks on the plant spirit path, this is a crucial meditation because we are engaging with beings, with persons who are so radically different than us. It's one thing to talk about being in kinship with an animal, maybe a companion animal. Um, they're mammals. They're very similar to us. They emote in ways that we can sometimes infer, and they breathe the same air, and they grow and do all the same things we do. But plants are quite radically different. So we need this. We need this meditation. We need this reminder, because without it, we can't really move forward. So on the plant spirit path, this concept of kinship, and by the way, you can apply this wherever you want. You don't have to limit this concept to plants. You can put it in whatever direction you want: deities, ancestors, animals, spirits of place, doesn't matter. Is creating these spirit to spirit intentional relationships, right? So I'm a spiritual being. Plants are also spiritual beings. And my interest then is to intentionally try to cultivate a relationship from the deepest part of myself to the deepest part of themselves. And in so doing, it opens up a way between us. It allows us to communicate. It allows us to share wisdom and power with one another. And this happens across a hedge. And this is not a literal hedge, right? It's a metaphoric hedge that symbolizes the way that the human perspective and the plant perspectives are separated. Plants live their lives from the perspective of plants. Humans live our lives from the perspective of humans. And we can do that in the same place at the same time and have very different experiences of the world. So when we enter into the sorcerous, intentional, animist kinship with plants, we're trying to create a little parting in the hedge so that the perspectives of the human and the plant can overlap. We can step out of ourselves and experience things from their world. And we also can allow them to step out of themselves and experience things from our world, right? It's a mutually beneficial relationship, which is different than transactional relationships that we're used to. So we do all of this work in order to create profound spiritual connections with plants. And in so doing, we part the hedge and we create a path between us and them, between a one human person and specific plants, between a human and all of the plants, and between humanity and plants. And when we do that, it means that the wisdom and power held by the plant spirits, and consequently the wisdom and power held by humans, can flow effortlessly, right? Now, these boundaries, these blockages that exist between the humans with our blinders on, where we think the entire world is about humans, suddenly those fall off and we can start having experiences with our spirit to spirit kin. And what ends up happening is we are blessed with these massively expanded perspectives. Suddenly, because we are open to learning directly from plants, to receiving the blessings of wisdom and power from plants, we also get insights from them directly. We get their perspective. And I like to say that these perspectives run deep and high because plants are ultimately rooted deeply into the soil and they are canopied or fruited high into the sky, even if they're small plants, right? It's symbolic. So this means that the mysteries that the plants draw up from the realm below, from the darkness, from the unknown, from the undifferentiated, from the world, the cosmic womb, from the land from which all of us emerge, into which all of us will return at the time of death. The plants gather that energy up and they bring it and they allow us to experience it. Similarly, their leaves and branches and flowers are canopied in the sky, gathering patterns, spirals, different types of functions, and this bird's eye perspective of how the universe works. And they also gather that wisdom and bring it down and give us access to that. And so suddenly on the plant spirit path, we start seeing and experiencing the world in a totally different way, right? We walk out of our front door into the world and suddenly we feel part of. We feel like we're surrounded by friends and allies. We don't feel better than, superior to, alienated from. We start to be aware of the fact that we are just as part of nature as any other part of nature. And we start to feel welcomed back into those relationships because we are approaching them with respect. And right, and that's like the greatest offering in this work, is just to approach with respect. So we walk out into the world and suddenly, surrounded by friends and kinship, we start having insight, inspiration, downloads, perspectives, and realizations that go beyond what we are capable of having when we have those human exceptional blinders on, when we think that this whole thing is about humans, right? And the first step, by the way, is removing the toxicity of thinking that plants are here to serve humans. They are tools for us. They are resources for us to tap, that they are here exclusively to provide us with food and fuel and shelter and fiber and medicine and beauty. All of those things are provided by plants, but we have to get rid of the concept that that's the only reason they exist, because it's not, right? They are sovereign beings experiencing their own lives and their own reality. So next we have sacred reciprocity, and this is where kinship, where animism becomes ritualized, where it becomes something that we do. It becomes a way that we show up in the world by choice, right? This is very important that intent is underneath all of this, because what we intend sets kind of a tone. It sets a filter for our heart, and it changes the way that we approach the work. So if our intent is very deeply about creating deep personal relationships with plants, then we're already off to a good start, right? The auspiciousness is already there. So we want that. So sacred reciprocity then is the ritual of animism. It is a way that we reciprocate all of the endless blessings of the plants. And how we do this reciprocity is really personal. I have lots of other classes and some advanced content on making offerings, on doing energetic work with plants, on how we can do something for them, right? How we show up for them. Because even in our spiritual herbalism conversations, 99% of it is about humans, right? 99% of it is about us. What do we get out of it? What can plants do for us? How can plants help us? So we need to spend at least 1% of the time thinking about what we can do for them. And it can be something as simple as going and picking up trash, right? It can be very practical, very intuitive thing. And it can also be deeper, which we talk about in other more advanced classes. So reciprocity then is the ritual of animism. It is the act by where we acknowledge the many gifts of the plants, the way that they provide food, shelter, medicine, fiber, fuel, beauty, inspiration, kinship, mentorship. And we say, now what can we do to return that love, right? How can we reciprocate? This is not transactional. It's not, I will do things for the plants to get them, to coerce them, to trade them for something. That's not it. That's transactional. That's capitalism. This is reciprocity. It's acknowledging the beautiful things already being given and choosing to step up and return in whatever way we can from our own storehouse of gifts that we can give. And something really magical happens. For many years, by the way, I used to not talk about this openly. I used to only share this with my closest students because I really feel like this is something that um, people can mistreat and they can misappropriate this idea, right? So please don't do that. I'm going to give it to you freely right now. Treat it as what it is, which is a very sacred piece of mystery, of wisdom that the plants have shared with us since time immemorial, right? Which is that when we give something of ourselves, whether it be time or energy or resources or thought and contemplation, again, how the offerings show up in these practices is it's its own topic, it's its own subject, right? But when we give of ourselves, and the intent is clear that we're so grateful for the plant, what the plants do for us, that we want to give something to them, right? We've all felt that feeling before. Oh, I love this person so much, I want to gift them something. When we have that with the plants and we act on it, we actually do something with it, we actually take time and energy to go pick up the trash, or we take time and energy to write the ritual or the charm, and we go sit with the plants and we recite those charms and we do that ritual and we give them that way, or when we go sit with plants and we offer the energy, it creates a space within us, right? We give something out of the vessel of ourselves, and now there's room inside of us. It's like you've taken a piece of furniture out of a room and now there's an empty space. And nature abhors a vacuum. So, the inclination in the ritual of reciprocity is that when space is created within the self, nature will immediately want to refill that space. And it will want to refill it in kind kinship, right? Kindness and kinship are etymologically related words. So, the way in which we give, the sentiment in which we give, has something to do with what will come back to us, what can fit into the space that's been created within us, right? If you imagine that when you make an offering or you do a ritual for plants, that you scoop something out of yourself in a particular shape, and only something of that same shape can come back in and fill the space. And that shape is defined by the intent, by the sentiment, right? By the power of the thing. Then it is replaced, and it is replaced from the plants because do des, right? We give so that they may give, so that we may give, so that they may give, so that we may give, so that they may give. We enter into this infinite flow, the infinity flow of reciprocity. And that is the real ritual that we're after, right? Not these little one-off piecemeal bits of ritual. And it's okay to do those things, right? But we ultimately want to enter into a space where that ritual starts and never stops happening. We're always in this beautiful give and receive, exhale and inhale. Yeah. So we create space within, and it allows the plants to fill us up with new blessings in ways that we would not be able to be filled had we not created space through the gifting. This is a very big mystery within the Green Art tradition, within plant spirit work as a whole, and something that really bears a lot of contemplation and meditation. We enter into that infinity flow, and by being involved in that flow, we are changed. By having energy move through us in such a way that is really fueled by love, gratitude, acknowledgement, counting blessings, noticing the small things, it changes us, right? We can't be the same person when this river that moves through us finally starts to flow freely rather than impeded. So we are changed as people. Are we changed into someone or something else? No, I don't think so. I think we are changed and transformed back into the best parts of who we already are, right? The best parts of us are nourished and emerge and fill up the space of self. So this is really, really important. The last thing that I'm going to give you on this particular slide is another one of the deeper mysteries from my tradition of plant spirit work, the Green Art tradition, which is that people who, even in a cursory, beginner, imperfect, here and there kind of way, are engaged with the ritual of sacred reciprocity, stand out. It is impossible for these people to walk out into the world, to walk into a park, a forest, a meadow, a field, a garden, a front lawn, and not stand out as different to the spirits of place. Of course, to the plant spirits, because they're who we are engaging with intentionally, but we will also be seen differently by the deities, by the spirits of place, by the ancestors, by the animals, the insects, and you will even experience them respond differently to your presence, right? They will see you as kin. They will see you as somebody who participates in the ritual of life. And so they will respond to you as somebody who is part of that flow, right? And this is a very magical thing that happens to people. And it took a long time for me to really reverse engineer why it was happening and why I felt different in the world. But then I also noticed that the world, especially the natural world, responded differently to my presence than it had before. And quickly realized that it is by showing up in this heart-centered reciprocal state that we're just seen differently than other humans, right? We just get welcomed in a different way. And I don't know about you, but I love that. And it's really one of my favorite things about doing this work, right? Is just how it changes the way I get to be part of the world. So very, very important. And, you know, on a clinical level, a great deal of the stress that I see in my clients has to do with folks not feeling like they belong, not feeling like they're part of, not feeling like they are seen for who they are, or that they have anything to bring to the greater table of capital N nature. And man, if this work doesn't act as the greatest medicine, right, it will fix that sometimes immediately if we just change our perspective. Green gnosis. So the heart is a thinking organ. in the same way that the brain is a thinking organ and the gut is also a thinking organ, right? These are places where we process data, we remember it, we respond to it, we create patterns around it. There are active neurological cells in the heart, making it not only a thinking organ, but also a gland which responds to incoming data through hormones and other internal chemicals. The heart is a very powerful place in the body, and it is the space through which our plant spirit communications happen. Plants do not communicate with us in our heads. They do not communicate with us through our hands, right? These can be places of contact, but ultimately the communication always happens first in the heart, and then it trickles from there into other levels of experience. So we should always approach this work from the heart, thinking with the heart, honoring the heart. The heart is a sacred center in our body in the same way that the trunk is the sacred center of a tree, right? It's the place where the upper parts of us and the lower parts of us gather and mingle in centricity. So this is very, very important. And the heart being this liminal place where it's neither above nor below. It's also the organ that is in contact with the entire being, right? Whatever we put into our heart center gets pumped into the fullness of our being. It's the best place inside of us to engage with otherness. It's the best organ, it's the best locale within the human being for us to try to connect across the hedge, to connect with beings and people who are radically other than us, to connect with non corporeal beings, spirits who don't have physical bodies, right? To connect with non local beings like plants who have a very complicated relationship with their physical forms. So, the heart is very, very important. We should think with the heart in this work. We should be aware that it is in the heart center where the plants can actually drop in their blessings and their wisdoms. And when we do that, what starts happening is this deep knowing. And I like to say it's knowing in the bones, right? Because it wakes something up in the deepest, oldest part of us. It wakes up our ancestral herb-wise wisdom, but it also wakes up something very, very deep and primal within that we are now communicating with the world. We are now being seen by the world, and we are now having our questions and our queries, whether they've been expressed or not, responded to by the world. And this is very, very important. So, this all leads to this process of being rooted and fruited, being more connected to the land, being more plugged into the source of spiritual nourishment, which we draw up from the symbolic soil, and our ability to turn all of these blessings, all of this wisdom that we get from the plants into our fruits, right? Into things that are nourishing and beautiful and sustainable and create something pleasing in the world, create more harmony, which is ultimately at the root of all this work as far as a long-term goal goes. So green gnosis, having that wisdom arise from within as a direct response to our kinship with the plants. Each of these steps builds on one another. Hopefully you can see that. Magic and medicine. We tend to separate these two things in contemporary herbal work, right? There are books on herb magic and there are books on herbal medicine. Very rarely will you see a book that talks about both herb magic and herbal medicine. This is a big part of my personal calling. It's to take the and out of that, right? And just look at magic and medicine as the same thing, the way that our not too distant herbwise ancestors did. It hasn't been very long that we've separated the concepts of magic and medicine, and we've done so because of a lot of control and a lot of supremacy structures and a lot of people trying to push down our earth-centered spiritualities and support other types of things. But we don't have to participate in that narrative if we don't want to. We can approach plants and experience plants as gifters of virtues, right? So we just say in our tradition, we just say they give us virtues. And whether those virtues arise in a more magical way, a transformative way in the life path, or a more medicinal way, a transformative way internally, It doesn't matter. It's the same process, right? It's the same thing. Magic and medicine are synonymous in this work. This is a very important concept to carry in the heart as we study herbs, as we sit with plants. So, the way of healing then is about understanding that the plants are not limited in how or where they can apply their virtues, right? We might think that drinking a cup of herbal tea means that those herbs can create healing or harmony anywhere where the herbal tea can reach, right, in our physical body. But we would be wrong. We have many, many experiences in our tradition of folks sitting down and drinking a cup of herbal tea and having something in their life transform, right? Having a relationship change or an opportunity arise or a blockage or obstacle go away. So the way of healing is both medicinal and magical. There are no limits. Take the brakes off, remove whatever false walls you have in your brain, which we've all been conditioned to have, that separate these two things and let them both be existing at the same time. And you will start coming into a close connection to who the plants really are and how they really work. But first, you reach the bank, right? This is a part of pretty much every class on medicine and magic that I do. I like to remind people that before you can pull somebody out of the raging rapids of a river, you yourself have to get up onto dry land. So this is an opportunity and a permission for us to be selfish, to take care of ourselves, to acknowledge the ways in our lives that we need help, that we need things to change, that we need things to be better, more beautiful, more harmonious, maybe have more ease, right? Lots of folks who are called to plant spirit path work are very eager to apply everything they learn in service of other people, to take care of their families and their communities. And that's awesome, right? This is us trying to behave like plants, being generous. But first, we must take care of ourselves, and we have to continue to take care of ourselves all the way through the journey, right? You have to give yourself permission to rest, recuperate, to work on your stuff. The plants will teach you very special things as you work on your shit that they can't teach you in any other way than walking you through it personally, right? So we really, as students of the plants, we should be jumping at the opportunity to try to bring them in more and more deeply to navigate our own stuff, because we will learn things from them and about them in those heated moments that we can't learn in any other way, right? You can't learn from studying books or taking classes. They can only teach you by being in it with you. So this is very important. We should also hold, at least in my tradition, the way that I teach this work, our ultimate goal, which is the creation, the cultivation, the nourishment of beauty, harmony, ease, cosmos, things fitting together in a cosmetic way, in a pleasing way, cosmos. That everything we do with the plants should align to their own intent. And the intent of the plants is always to create more harmony, right? Simply to have things fit together in a pleasing way, to have things make sense, to have things have flow, to things be harmonious, right? This is very, very important to them. And they do that, of course, by ultimately channeling the force of love. There's probably no better teacher of this concept than the Sicilian philosopher Empedocles, one of my favorites, and somebody who's been deeply influential in my work, who talked about there being two primary forces that drove the universe into function, right? Love and chaos, or beauty and chaos, or fear and chaos. So, or love and fear. So, the flow of love is very important. And in our work, it symbolizes wellness, it symbolizes vibrant health. We know that when love or vital force or life energy flows efficiently through the body and to the body does not enter into disease states. We know that when organs or structures or functions in the body start to behave in disharmonious ways, it's generally as a result of a lack of energy, an issue with the flow of love, the flow of vital force in the body. Either too much is stagnating, or not enough is getting there and it's deficient, or the energy moving through a space is disharmonious. Those are the three primary causes of dis-ease and disharmony in my work. So we have to approach the medicine and the magic of herbs from that perspective as well, right? That we're trying to create harmony, and we're trying to always allow the energy is flowing with ease, right? Watching rivers, see how they do it, and then trying to do that. And also that we are doing whatever we can to align to the wisdom keepers themselves. That again, our intent should never be different or run parallel to, um, or at a right angle to, I should say, the plants, right? That what we create with their support should be something that is in alignment with what they want to create. And that is always going to be something beautiful. And beautiful is, of course, very, very subjective, and that's okay. If it feels right for you, if it feels beautiful and cosmetic and harmonious, and maybe as though there's a little ease or a little flow, chances are it's right. And when we approach this phase of things with all the other bits that we just talked about in place, if you are wrong, if you need a little correction, if you've kind of stepped out of the flow of harmony, you will be corrected. Something will happen to let you know, hey, you need to dial your intention a little bit differently, or we need to adjust your perspective, or there is an experience that's going to come into your life that's going to clarify things for you or give you a new angle on things, right? And then you move forward with success. So this is very, very important. Last bit that I want to share in this part two on the plant spirit path is wild wisdom, right? That when we, at the end of the day, all the work that we've done, everything we've invested, all the offerings we made, and the work that we've done, the study, the contemplation, the successes and failures, is ultimately all going back to this concept of kinship, right? Of just being in deep relationship with the plants. And this wild wisdom, again, gives us an access to a different kind of knowledge than humans normally have access to. So we are crossing over the hedge, moving into the world of the plants, learning directly from them, bringing that special wisdom back into the human world and employing it in service of ourselves and our communities. That's the work, right? So when we cultivate this wild wisdom, we have friends with a view, right? We have friends who see things differently, who see things from a different perspective, who maybe have a bird's eye view of what's going on. Or, we have tree friends that live thousands of years. So now we have access to friends who have watched patterns emerge, not over 80 or 90 years of a lifetime, but over thousands of years. And that's different, right? That's a different kind of wisdom. If you're like me, it's kind of wisdom that you want, right? We want access to that. We get these radical perspectives from plants. And when I say radical, I mean the etymological root of radical, which is rooted, right? The perspectives that are rooted in the land, rooted in nature, rooted in cosmic law, and rooted in the universe wanting to function in a state of harmony, in a state of cosmos, right? This is very important. We get access granted to these spaces where the plants not only have the ability now to teach us and share with us because we've done the work to open our heart and to part the hedge, but they've granted us access to that wisdom because of the work that we've put in, because of who we've become as people, because of how we've stepped up and chosen to engage intentionally with this work. It is hard won, right? It's something that we earn over years and decades of our lives. And then we become wisdom carriers too. So we become human vessels for plant wisdom, meaning again, that we as humans learn directly from the plants and we take that wisdom as humans and bring it back to our human communities. And this is syncretism, animism, and sacred reciprocity in action. Everything is done with respect. Everything is done with reciprocity, and everything is done with that deep love that can only happen between kin, between allies across the hedge, between the humans and the plants that those humans are in relationship with. And so, No one is being treated like a tool. No one is being used as a commodity or a research. None of the wisdom is being misappropriated or misplaced in a way that's destructive in any way. Um, we're doing it the right way, right? It's a slow process. It is hard work. It requires blood, sweat, and tears, oftentimes literally, but it's so worth it. It's such a beautiful experience and such a beautiful journey. So, this is where we're going to end part two of our three-part mini course on the plant spirit path. If this kind of stuff interests you, if this gets you excited, come over to thegreenart.com. This is my primary website. You can learn more about me. You can get access to all of our classes and courses, all the different things that I offer. Over on the Green Art Patreon, we have our community where you get access to all of the content that I put out, with the added benefit of being in community with some really incredible people. I have two books, both published by Aeon in London, the great herbal publishing house, Spiritual Herbalism, The Magic and Medicine of the Plants, and The Green Art, The Craft of the Herbwise. I suggest reading them in that order. And of course, if you haven't taken a moment to subscribe to the channel, please do so. You'll get a little ding every time a new class comes out. So I will see you in part three.